Takaichi said it could trigger a military response from Tokyo. Beijing views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory and has not ruled out the use of force to take control of the island.
Japan said one sentence, and China exploded. Beijing called it shocking, dangerous, and a red line that must not be crossed. Within hours, Asia slipped into its worst Japan-China crisis in years, and the impact didn't stay online. Chinese tourists canceled trips. Flights were dropped. Japanese airports and hotels saw sudden declines. Economists warned Japan could lose billions in tourism and imported goods as China slows or cuts trade. All because of one sentence. Here's the real question. If this tension continues, what happens to Asia? And how did one comment turn into a regional crisis? Because this isn't just about Taiwan. It's about two nations tied by trade, history, and fear, suddenly pulled into the same storm. The statement that changed everything. Japan's new Prime Minister, Takaichi, said, "A Chinese attack on Taiwan could be a survival-threatening situation for Japan." Inside Japan's constitution, that phrase has a specific meaning. It gives Japan the legal right to join a conflict even if it hasn't been attacked. In simple terms, if Taiwan is attacked, Japan may fight. That single line changed everything. China's immediate explosion. China responded within hours. Foreign Minister Wang Yi said the statement was shocking, a wrong signal, a red line that must not be crossed, an attempt to intervene militarily. And then came the hardest line. If Japan persists, we will re-examine its historical crimes. A reference to World War II, a pressure tool China uses only when the situation is serious. The economic hit. Almost immediately, Chinese tourists stopped going to Japan. Flights were canceled. Japan's tourism sector lost 2.2 trillion yen in projected revenue. China suspended Japanese seafood imports. Cultural exchanges and travel groups were halted. Time estimates Japan could lose $500 million to $1.2 billion. This wasn't symbolic. It was direct economic punishment. The contradictions that could break Asia. China and Japan depend on each other. The situation becomes even more complicated here. Japan calls China its greatest security threat. But at the same time, China is Japan's #1 trading partner. Japan is one of China's biggest investors. 12,000 plus Japanese companies operate in China. They are political opposites, but economic partners. This contradiction defines the crisis. The UN clash. China took the issue to the United Nations, accusing Japan of violating the One China principle. Japan dismissed the accusation. Diplomatic conversations froze almost instantly. History returns. China's warning that it would re-examine Japan's historical crimes wasn't about education. It was a message. In East Asia, history isn't past, it's leverage. A dangerous misunderstanding. China believes Taiwan is an internal issue. Japan believes Taiwan is connected to our survival. Both sides see the other as escalating. This is how miscalculations begin. And small mistakes start big conflicts. The map that can start a war. Geography is destiny. People often forget how close Japan is to Taiwan. Japan's Nansei Islands stretch 1,200 kilometers toward Taiwan. And the closest island, Yonaguni, is only 110 kilometers away. With that distance, a Taiwan conflict easily becomes a Japan conflict. Why Japan is terrified of a Taiwan war. If China takes Taiwan, China's military moves closer to Japan's defensive zone. Japan's southern islands become exposed. China gains more control in the Pacific. Japan loses a key buffer that protects its shipping routes. Hundreds of Japanese islands lose protection. Japan supports Taiwan because its survival depends on it. not because of ideology. Incidents. Nobody talks about China has already tested Japan. In 2022, China fired 5 ballistic missiles into Japan's exclusive economic zone. In 2024 to 2025, Chinese attack drones approached Japan's airspace. Japan scrambled jets multiple times. Each warning from Japan is followed by China moving closer. Japan's biggest military shift since World War II. Japan sees what's coming, and it's preparing. A 43 trillion yen defense budget, raising spending to 2% of GDP, deploying missiles on Yonaguni, 110 kilometers from Taiwan, new radar systems, more joint US-Japan bases. Expanded military drills. Japan is preparing for a worst-case scenario it hopes never happens. A nation divided, Japan is split. 48.8% support, helping defend the region. 44.2% want Japan to stay neutral. Japan doesn't want war, but it cannot ignore the risk. What happens next? Cold tension. Trade continues. Diplomacy stays cold. The situation becomes a long-term, uneasy normal. Decoupling. China increases sanctions. Japan slowly pulls away economically. Asia's economy takes a hit, especially tourism and imports. Flashpoint. A drone, a jet, a missile test, a collision at sea. Not a decision, but a mistake triggers a crisis. Most conflicts don't start with declarations. They start with misunderstandings, or pride, or one sentence spoken at the wrong moment, just like this one.